Mayor Stilo, it's 7 o'clock. Would you like to call the meeting to order? You're muted, sir.
Yeah, let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting and motion to close part of the meeting amended August 18th, 2020. Call a roll.
Councilmember Saper,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Toll,
Here.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Present.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Saper, can you lead everyone in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
Flag, the United States
of America. And to the republic. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is comments from the public. I do not believe that I have any comments from the public to read into the record tonight.
Do we need to approve the agenda?
I'm sorry, sir, I did jump ahead of that. Next item is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is comments from the public. And I don't believe that I have any comments to read into the record tonight. Can I ask the IT manager, Stephen Roberts, if there's anyone on the meeting who would like to speak during comments from the public? Any member of the public?
Thanks, Mr. Berlin. If there's any members of the public, please use the raise hand feature if you're connected via Zoom, or if you're connected by telephone, press *9 if you'd like to speak. Mr. Berlin, I do not believe there are any comments tonight.
All right, thank you. Moving on, then, the next item is consent agenda, which is consisting only of one item, and that's the approval of the regular council meeting minutes of August 4th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
Number 7, CARES funding discussion.
Thank you. So as the council knows, we did receive about $418,000 in CARES funds from the federal government by way of Clay County. In May, the city council adopted a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a community partner funding certification with Clay County. And it notes that community partners will be asked to voluntarily return all or part of unused CARES Act funding on October 1st, 2020 to Clay County, and then they would theoretically reallocate it to another jurisdiction that had a use for it. So at this time, you do have a third draw of CARES funding later on in your agenda. And the amount of funding that would remain in our CARES fund account after that third draw, assuming you approve it tonight, would be about $221,400. So at this point, as we get closer to October 1st, Staff did seek some direction as to whether you would like to spend down funds, perhaps in the way that you did earlier this year, where you had small business grants and also grants for individuals and families in need due to COVID-19. If you wanted to do that, that would draw down about, and if all the grants that were fully funded, that would draw down about $173,000. It would leave about $48,000 for other expenses before October 1st. So that was just an idea that staff had. If you wished to do another round, or if you had any other ideas for spending those CARES funds, staff doesn't really have any other than the kinds of things that we've been spending it on so far, various PPE and technological purchases, et cetera, to help us get through. We didn't have any particular ideas to suggest to you, and so we wanted to ask you if that was something that you might be interested in. Sorry, I'm not sure who saw raise their hand first. I'll go on Councilmember DeLong, and then Smith, and then Clevenger.
Okay, so my first question, is there any chance that we can get Clay County to push that deadline from October 1st to like mid-December? Because they have till end of year to get the money. We can allocate the funds. I don't think that's going to be an issue, or at least most of them. Is there any chance we can push it back? There's still just a lot of question marks on what's going to happen in the next couple months. And if I feel like if we can hold a little bit more of this money a little bit longer, it may help 1 month, 2 months down the road.
So are you going over to Mike's?
We can certainly ask that question. It's the way that it's phrased is even a little bit odd. It says that we would be asked to voluntarily return all part of unused CARES Act funding, but from staff's perspective, as of right now, that's a commitment. But if you're certainly correct, I mean, one thing that Congress was talking about was perhaps extending the use of CARES fund to provide some revenue replacement, for example, to state and local governments. As of right now, they have not done that. But we could ask the question to answer, of Clay County if they'd be willing to extend. I don't tell you what they say.
Okay. Well, I guess it'd be kind of depending on what we decide tonight as well. One thing I would propose definitely is another round of small business grants, potentially even going up to max a roof of 7,500 and still, or 7,500. Maybe even increasing the pool a little bit. I know we didn't fill up applicants last time, but I did have some people reach out after we granted the last ones. For some reason or another, they're just not on the right distribution list, so they don't follow the city. So, some businesses did kind of slip through and miss the opportunity to get in on the last one. But even some of the ones that we gave money to the first time, I mean, that 5,000 is just a small amount in small amount of what they've been losing, the damage that's been done. So I'd definitely be in favor of another round of small business grants, as well as all, but for the North Lead Assistance Center grant so far, I saw the report now, I can't remember, they've spent about 9,000 of that 15 so far?
The amount that I have is 10,508.
They spent 10,000, okay, so a little bit more than that, okay. So that'd probably be appropriate to hold them out, but and that'd be the amount I'd want to even more so make sure we're holding through, if we could, end of October, end of November, if some of these federal benefits are changing for people on unemployment and some other issues going on. I don't want to see there be a wave of people that all of a sudden now can't make their mortgage or rent payments, and then we don't have any more money for them. So I would like to see us, also hold some aside there. And that's all I have for now. Oh, sorry, one more for staff. So how much did you want to hold on for staff for other issues or for other expenditures?
Well, if you were to fund those two grants at the same amounts that you did last time, which was 150,000 plus 5% for administration costs, and 115,000 plus 5%, that would leave about $48,000 in the fund, which I think would get us through to October 1st, and probably longer if there was an extended deadline.
And so at this point, the city feels like they have sufficient PPE, especially for our first responders?
Yes, to the degree that it's available, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smith and then Councilmember Clevenger.
A couple of things I would definitely echo, asking for the extension that Bryant mentioned. I know that it says voluntarily, but I would like to get that in writing if we can, to push it out. And then I like the idea of doing a second round of these grants. They were well received the first time, a lot of great response. But if Congress has been changing their mind on a lot of things lately and how these programs were rolled out quickly and then rethought after the fact, if they end up allowing us to use this to replace lost revenue at some point, it bears that we should hold out as long as we can. If we get the extension, great. If Congress is still kicking it around and we're a couple weeks out from when we have to give the money back, then we run the grant program. But I think we should hold out as long as we can to find out, because yeah, we're hurting too. Like we've lost a chunk of revenue. We're going to talk at length about that next month during budget. But I think it would really be beneficial to hold that option as long as we can and wait for Congress to come to the table. And if they don't, then we give it to businesses and residents. That's my thought on it.
And staff's only thought, and then I'll call on Councilmember Clevenger, is that if there is an October 1st deadline, then you're running out of time to make that decision. We would propose, if you wanted to do that, to put that on your September 1st agenda for a couple of other, couple of new memorandums of understanding with a couple of agencies that we'd work with.
Yeah, if we don't get an extension before the next meeting, I guess then we would, throw it on the September 1st meeting and discuss it then. Yes, sir.
We could do that. Councilmember Clevenger.
Yeah, pretty much they've covered the questions that I had. As far as I'm definitely in favor of seeing if we can get an extension, something in writing from Clay County that allows us to do that. If we do, great, hold off a little bit, see how it goes, see how Congress is going to allow us to allocate the money, if we can do it for a revenue shortfall or not. But if we can't get the extension, I'm with Brian about doing the second round of business and residential grant programs, because there have been a few businesses that have reached out to me that have been missed for one reason or the other. I mean, the business council has been doing their job, sending out the emails, and a lot of business people get so many emails that they don't read all of them. So, the question on that is, if we do again, whenever we do it, another round of business grants, when on the waiting process and how we're grading the applicants, would people that have businesses that have not received assistance before kind of get ahead in the line, or would they get any kind of special preference because they did not receive grant funding in the first round, whereas somebody else who's maybe received it in the first round and is asking for a second round? That was one of the questions, is regarding the business grant program that I had for staff or other council members. But other than that, everything's, the two council members before stated what I wanted to state.
From staff's perspective, if you told us that was a priority that you wanted to have, was that those who had not previously received a grant would get some kind of extra weighting, we could put that in. Councilmember Smith.
One other quick thought on that, the allocation. So Eric, you mentioned just kind of throwing it out there, if we did it the same as we did before, I would advocate that we ramp up a little more on the individual side and take the businesses down just a touch, because the unemployment benefits have been cut. The individual protections have kind of run dry right now. We don't know what's going to happen in the next week or day, but there's going to be some people hurting now that the unemployment's getting cut down. It's a couple $100 a week taken off. Some of the electric company policies, they're now, I believe, willing to shut off some utilities. So we may have a little more demand for the rent assistance and the utilities. So maybe play with that allocation a little bit.
Councilmember Tall.
I'm in favor of pushing the money out as soon as we can. I know we have businesses that are putting a lot of their own money into the business that are running out of funds. I know that individuals are running out of funds. So if we could make a decision and get the money out as soon as possible to people who need it, is that something we could do tonight, or do we need to draw something up to do it on September 1st? What are the parameters? I mean, it's on the agenda.
So I think we previously did this by means of a memorandum of understanding with the Clay County EDC. and with the Northland Assistance Center. I think you would need to do that again, have another memorandum of understanding. Then a question would be, how long do you take to take applications? Staff has some ideas about that, but that would be a question that you would need to decide how long you would want to wait. And then they would bring the recommendations back to you. We might have a special meeting where you would approve the recommended allocations. But I don't think that's something you could just do tonight, for example. I do think that there'd need to be a somewhat formal process in order to kick off the second round.
Okay, so what we need to get done tonight is just this initial discussion? That was
That's right.
the goal for tonight? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. Councilmember DeLong.
No, so Gina, I would agree with what she said. Definitely the small businesses, I'd like to see that, just like the previous ones, that, you know, as quickly as we could possibly do. On the resident assistance side, you know, they've only used 2/3 of those funds so far. So, I mean, there are still some funds there, a little buffer. Now I could dry up and, you know, a couple visits, people go up there, that'd be gone pretty quick. But, and that was part of why I was hoping maybe we could get an extension and allow those funds to sit out there a little bit longer, more for the residential side, the grant side of that. Because there are a lot of question marks, like previously mentioned, on what these next couple of months look like, especially for individuals. So that was where I was more coming from on holding past that October 1st date. I mean, I think we can definitely allocate the money before, I believe the county has to have it back to maybe the state at the end of December. Do you know, Eric?
I think it's the end of January.
End of January, even farther out. Yeah. So there's a lot of room for us there. I mean, time-wise, if we can get them to extend.
We will certainly ask them the question.
Thank you.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we will certainly, as staff, we'll make the contact right away tomorrow and see if there's a possibility for extension. And if not, then we would bring to you, maybe we would work on a couple of new memorandums of understanding with each agency. You all can decide what your ceiling is in terms of grants, whether it's the $5,000 that you had established before or some higher amount. And if you want to allocate the funds differently between 8 individuals and families versus 8 to small businesses. But that's, I think, what I'm hearing, Councilmember DeLong.
Okay, one more question, sorry. On the October 1st, was that what the Clay County Commission approved, or is that what we agreed to on the ad hoc amendment with Commissioner Nolte?
Well, it was a county resolution, so.
The county resolution had the October, okay. All right,
yes.
Thank you.
So I think we probably have enough direction to proceed. We'll come to you with some kind of a again, if there's an extension, we'll let you know that. And we'll come to you with some kind of a proposal similar to the one that you considered last May. And you can, modify that as you like when we bring it forward to you at your next meeting. Is there anything else on that before we proceed to the next item? All right. Well, thank you.
Item 8, discussion of continuation of temporary parklets.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At your June 16th meeting, the City Council approved the creation of a temporary parklet license that allows for the conversion of on-street parking spaces for uses such as curbside patio seating. The way the ordinance amendment was written, the code now authorizes these temporary parklet licenses until the end of the public health emergency, which is extremely unlikely at this point to end by the beginning of September. However, during the discussion with Council on June 16th, staff proposed that this program extend through Labor Day, at which point we expected the barriers would be removed. At this point, we only have one temporary parklet license that has been issued for the Screenland Armor. And the owners of the Screenland have indicated that the parklet has been helpful in supporting their business during this time. And they also believe that it will receive more use after Labor Day, when the weather will be more temperate than it has been earlier in this summer. Because the program was initially established with an end date of Labor Day, staff is requesting council direction regarding on whether you would like to extend the temporary parklet licenses. And if you wish to extend the program, we will work with the Screenland and any future licensees on maintaining the concrete and metal safety barricades that city staff have placed for that parklet. The other question related to that is if council directs to extend the program, the Screenland Armor owners have asked that the hours of operation that are set by ordinance be reconsidered and be extended from a closing time of 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. At this point, this is just a discussion item. Staff requests your direction on whether we need to bring any further actions before you in a future meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Clevenger, Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Smith, and Councilmember DeLong.
Okay, thank you. I've been down there a couple of times, checked out the parklet, sat down there. I think it definitely helps Screenland Armor's business. A lot of people come for the outdoor movie and they'll hang out there beforehand, or people that don't even go to a movie will stop in there. So I don't think they've had any issues with it. I don't see a problem with extending it for another hour. But that's something that I think with the cooler weather coming on, hopefully, that it will be used more. So I'm in favor of extending it.
Councilmember Clark.
I too am in favor of extending it. I also, I think my big question right now or comment is more around, since this is something we've already voted on, is this something that we can easily amend to just extend tonight and sort of done deal? Or I think I'm also piggybacking off the question that you presented is, can we do that? Is that in our parameters tonight to say, since we've already voted on this, it was an issue, can we just amend it to extend it?
Right, it's sort of
be that simple.
Sure, it's sort of a yes and no. Because the ordinance was written generally, I believe that yes, you could direct us to extend the temporary parklet licenses themselves at this point. The hours of operation, however, if you wanted to extend those from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m., that would require action on a future ordinance.
And we would intend to bring it to you on September 1st, which is prior to Labor Day. Councilmember Smith?
Absolutely in favor. They've done a good job setting it up, making it, user-friendly, safe, and successful. And the fall weather is going to make it a lot more enjoyable. It was very hot when I was out there. And the other question I would have is, so it looks like they asked us to go to 11. What's their liquor license cutoff time? Do they have a midnight cutoff, or what does that look like?
I think it's 1:30.
Yeah, I don't believe that they are one of our extended liquor license holders. So it would be 1:30. Now that does not mean that they stay open that long.
Correct. And the movies they've been showing, Bryant might know the answer to this a little bit. Like what time do those end usually? What time are they getting over?
Oh, I want to say 11-ish, but it's definitely getting early as we get farther in the year. They're starting them as soon as possible.
Okay.
So they're kind of starting in that range. I mean, they close more so, I think, when their indoor movies are done as well. I mean, that's kind of driving that closing time. And there are still some kind of people that'll come in there and linger a little bit and kind of want to hang out till 11. And some of those people are kind of either being pushed inside or having to leave.
Okay.
So
yeah, that was my thought, is that if the movies are ending 10:30, 11 o'clock, why not extend it until midnight so people can come and have a drink out on the patio afterwards and, enjoy the evening. I don't know why we would cut it off in time the meeting or the movie ends, when the movie's happening out back, parklets out front, that kind of thing.
Right. I would note that 11 p.m. was the request from Screenland Armor.
Okay. But we could set any time. We could do it 11:30,
yes.
Midnight. Okay. My pick would be midnight, to be honest, just to line it up cleanly, give people time after the movie's in to enjoy the evening. So.
Councilmember DeLong and Councilmember Saper.
That was me, just all over the place.
Councilmember Saper.
This discussion sort of begs the question as to why we only have one applicant. Does the staff have any sense of why?
No, I don't have a very solid sense of why. I do think that we have some restaurants in downtown that have sidewalk dining licenses, and I think that they maybe are just relying on the existing sidewalk dining setup that they have. The other thing that might be contributing to this is that the limit on how large of a patio you can have is the width of your storefront. So it might be that there are some businesses who feel like that space is not big enough to really be attractive. And Screenland Armor has, a long storefront presence, and so theirs is a little bit larger. But beyond my speculation, I really couldn't say. We have reached out on a couple of occasions to the River North group just so their members are aware of the program and what's required to participate. But I will say Screenland Armor has, in contacting me about this request, has stated that this has been very helpful, and they are very appreciative of being able to use this space for a curbside patio.
Okay.
Councilmember DeLong and Councilmember Tall.
Potentially some other spaces I thought would maybe use it. They have their own, outdoor spaces back behind. So you have American Fusion. They've been able to convert their parking lot that was on the side, and Velo Garage, they've been able to go back. So there are a lot of different options for different places too. And like she was saying, you get like a Michi Amaro. There would be a pretty narrow space anyways. And so it just seemed like kind of a burden for some of them because it's just so narrow. So I don't know. I'm sure there's a variety of reasons, but that's the few that I know.
Councilmember Tall.
I'm in favor of extending past Labor Day. And also I will jump on board with midnight. They can always shut it down at 11 if they want, but that way they have the flexibility to use it until midnight if they choose.
Councilmember DeLong and then Councilmember Farr.
Oh, if Councilmember Farr wants to go ahead.
Oh, Councilmember Farr.
I agree. I think we should extend it. I think we should put November the 2nd, which is on a Monday, and give them 2 more months. That's it.
Are there any further discussion?
I agree with Tom. I agree with Tom's suggestion. Just let them run it for as long as they can, I guess. And it'd probably be too cold after November. So November ought to be a good date for them. So anyway, that's all.
Councilmember Smith and then Councilmember DeLong.
I guess my question on the cutoff date is was the intent of this to kind of give them the opportunity to use extra space during the time that COVID is impacting us? That was my understanding. With that said, I don't see this being gone by November. But with Rick's point, it may be too cold. So there may be a natural cutoff where it just gets too cold to use it. So rather than setting a specific end date, we just let the weather tell them, hey guys, go inside. Or if by, some miracle we get a vaccine or this does go away, then we could reconvene and say, all right, it's time to cut it off, or this has really worked. We'll look into making it more of a thing. So I wouldn't necessarily want to put a cutoff date on it because we don't know where this pandemic's going.
Sarah, did you have a comment? I do if you don't, but did you want to speak?
Well, I will say the way it was originally written was general for the duration of the public health emergency, resulting in decreased, I'm forgetting exactly the exact wording now, and it's not coming readily to hand. But I don't think it would be problematic to amend that if we were already making another amendment to say November 2nd. We did say in the terms and conditions, we have we would not permit someone to put like a heater on the street for a variety of reasons. And so I do think that at a certain point, if the public health emergency extended into next year, it would be, I don't know how well used these would be in cold weather. So I think, we'll take your direction on that, but I agree. I don't think in the colds of January, there will be a lot of demand for this type of outdoor space. But, I'm not a cold weather person, so.
My comment would be, I think whether you say it's, when the public health emergency ends or some other thing, we are talking about use of right of way. And so we probably need to state some kind of an end, which you could always extend it if it seemed like it was worthwhile doing so. But I would suggest that we use some kind of an ending date in the extension. Councilmember DeLong.
Just to update on the question I was asked earlier, I reached out to Adam. He said their movies are ending between 10:30 and 11 right now, but as I said, they're getting earlier. That's the outdoor movie. The indoor operations are still running till 11 or past 11, so that's still going on. But the outdoors are ending between 10:30 and 11.
Councilmember Farr.
Reason I said November the 2nd. So if they decide that they're not going to go outside and they still have their park lit up and it snows, where are we going to plow the snow at? That means they can still have their park lit out there all throughout the winter. I'm afraid that'll be a problem after that. So.
Councilmember Tall.
I just have a question out of curiosity. I know it was really hard to find jersey barriers because everyone was wanting them. Did we end up purchasing or did we rent?
We purchased.
Okay.
We ended up finding some very reasonably priced barriers. They weren't exactly jersey barriers, but they served the purpose.
Great.
Councilmember DeLong.
I guess I didn't add it. Might as well add it here. I support extending it to 11 or midnight, whatever we come up with, as well as extending the end date of the parklet as well. This has definitely been a big help to them. I mean, they're at I think a third of their revenue right now. I mean, they're out the door with, I think they said $30,000 in their KCUR interview the other day, a month. So, I mean, the expenditures, they aren't going away. And they said this is actually really, helping make an impact towards, covering some of those expenses. So definitely support this. Thank you.
So I think if it's all right with the council, unless there's any other discussion, what I think staff would like to do is to bring to you an extension. We'll probably put November 2nd in there. You can debate it further at your next meeting if you like, and we'll extend it to midnight. We'll put that in because I think I'm hearing that consensus, and we'll have that on your next agenda for a formal vote. Was there anything else during this discussion that council wanted to talk about? Sarah, did you need anything further?
No, we will put that ordinance together for your next agenda. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Number 9, discussion extension of 7th amended order.
Thank you. The city's current emergency health order, which was the 7th amended order, ends August 23rd, next week. So staff did seek direction as to whether you wished to extend that. And if so, if you had any direction as to when you would like to extend it to. Councilmember DeLong.
Kansas City has extended theirs, correct? Was that their emergency health order that they extended till January?
January 16th, I believe, sir.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like a long time, but I also don't see this going anywhere. I mean, we can always pull it back if we need to, right? Or, if anything changes. That's what we passed before, is that's within our control to rescind.
Councilmember Smith and then Mayor Stila.
Let's sync it up with Kansas City. I see no reason not to, and we can vote as a council to move it back, just like Bryant said. So that's where I'm at.
Mayor Stila. You're muted, sir.
I would kind of, when you say January, middle of January, that doesn't give people much hope. I would rather go say like the November and give them a little bit of hope. We can always extend it. But when you say January, that seems like a long time away.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I know it does seem like a long time away, but it's going to be a long time before this virus is controlled, Mayor. I know what you mean by the people having hope, but if they know that we can bring it back, that's your hope right there. But me, I was not in favor of following Kansas City in the beginning and not now just because it's Kansas City. It's just because of the virus. I mean, it's not getting better. And I don't think it will until there's a vaccine that works. So I do agree that I don't like the sound of it, but I do agree with making it, extending it to January when we can always fall back. That's all I can.
Councilmember Clevenger and then Councilmember Clark.
I agree with extending it till middle of January, linking up with Kansas City. Certainly, you know, people want hope, but we don't want to give them false hope either. They're talking like vaccine maybe by the end of the year. So unless the numbers go way down, and if they do, then we can vote it back, which I hope they do, but hope we're having that discussion, but I don't know that we will. So I'm okay with following Kansas City on this one in middle of January.
Just based on some regional discussions we've been a part of, our understanding of Kansas City's reasoning was in part that they wish to provide some clarity to businesses that it would be extending through Christmas, it would be extending through New Year's Eve, for example, so that they would be able to do some planning. That was part of our understanding of why that Kansas City chose that date. Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. I think it's a smart move. My gut instinct was to say well into next year, at least through January. But that's a huge part of it. We all know how hectic the holidays can be. And I think everyone's trying to hope that there's some sense of normalcy around the holidays. And definitely when we think about CARES funds and things like that and how it can be dispersed and used, we don't want this vote of extending to keep happening. I would rather see us be able to say and announce, hey, we're pulling it back. But I think the reality is that we have to look at that January date and just know it's there, and we just keep our behaviors, hopefully everybody will start to be on board to think maybe it will be pulled back if behaviors improve. And of course, until a vaccine is found. So I'm definitely in favor of extending to January and matching Kansas City.
Would anybody like Councilmember Tall?
I'm just adding on that I also agree. I mean, just so everybody knows, I agree that I think that we should extend it with the hopes of pulling it back. But your comments about businesses preparing for the holiday season, knowing that it's in place, is probably a really good idea for planning.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Well, just so it's clear, what exactly are you moving, Councilmember Staper?
January 16th.
Extending until January 16th.
Correct.
Is there
And then I will second Councilmember Saber's motion.
been moved and seconded that we extend the emergency order until January 16th. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Smith.
We're just voting to show consensus, Eric, because the mayor is the one that makes this decision, right?
That's correct. The mayor can speak to this if he likes. My understanding is the mayor, generally speaking, has been trying to issue an order that reflects the council consensus. Mayor, is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. But yes, you are correct, Councilmember Smith. It's actually the mayor that does the order, and this is just to indicate to the council, really to the mayor, the sense of the council.
Okay.
So again, it's been moved and seconded that the sense of the council is that the emergency order be extended until January 16th, 2021. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Clevenger.
Does that includes, like, as far as the emergency order, does that include the mask order as well? Is that inclusive of the mask order?
Unless you change something tonight, yes, sir, it would.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tall,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart, you're muted.
No, I heard.
No, I can't.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
8-0.
I apologize. There was one other item that I wanted to bring up then regarding this extension, and we would appreciate if we could get some direction from you on this. And that is that the citywide garage sale is scheduled for September 19th. We did cancel the one that was scheduled in the spring due to COVID. We would like to get your sense as to whether the garage sale should be allowed, or whether, since you're extending this order, that we should cancel it. Does anyone have input? Councilmember Smith.
I don't want to be the bad guy here, but cancel it. It's just not worth the risk. I hate it for people, but I mean, if we got to cancel it.
Is there any other input? Councilmember Stewart?
No, nothing extra. I just go along with that. I think it's a responsible thing to do. And if we don't, we're saying we approve, and we don't want to do that, I don't think.
Okay. Anyone else? If I'm not hearing any dissent, then we will plan on doing that, on canceling the citywide garage sale on September 19th. And thank you.
Item 10, approval of changes to North Kansas City Policemen's and Firemen's Retirement Fund, Bill number 7529, ordinance number 9326.
Well, thank you. I'd like to call on the Fire Chief, Dave Hargis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What's before you tonight is a change in our fire and police pension. It's two general changes to the current ordinance. The first would be adding disbursement options that are comparable with the city's loggers plan. In the history of the fund, there's only been a couple of changes made in the disbursement, and we thought it was time that we moved it up and made it alongside what loggers benefits are available to their members as well. The second change is the updating of the definition of an actuarial equivalence. Presently, we use a 1984 mortality table to determine the benefits. We would like to move to a 2010 mortality table, which has public safety mortality tables built into it. Those are the changes that we're asking for tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
First reading.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Before I vote, since so many people know that I receive a pension from the fire department, this does not affect present retirees. It's only future retirees, so I can vote, and I vote yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2.64 Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Fund of Title II Administration and Personnel of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by amending sections 2.64.020 and 2.64.140 thereof.
I move that bill number 7529 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9326.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Did the mayor have a question?
Yes, Mayor Steele, look, were you trying to speak? You had your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to, Chief Hargis at the last meeting, you know, the stock market has been going all to heck, but this fund has held up real well. I thought maybe Chief Hargis could expound on that a little bit.
Yes, our fund was doing extremely well before COVID hit, and with the smoothing the actuarial uses for looking at how well we're funded, we've done really good with our investments. And as a matter of fact, they prepared a statement for us based on the numbers so far that in October the city won't need to put any additional funds into the pension to keep it 100% funded. It looks like we're going to be okay going forward. Now, that could change later on in the year, but currently our fund is doing very well in this current environment.
Mayor Stila.
I thought we needed some good news.
Okay, I'm going to start over on the roll call. Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2.64 Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Fund of Title II Administration and Personnel of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by amending sections 2.64.020 and 2.64.140 thereof. The next item is budget amendment COVID-19 expenses July 2020, resolution number 20-055.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the finance manager, Nick Hawkins.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is the third budget amendment related to COVID-19 expenses and covers primarily P-card purchases from the month of June. Total is a little over $11,000. It includes, like the city administrator mentioned earlier, PPE for staff and remote work supplies for staff that are working from home. Happy to answer any questions, but again, these primarily cover P-card purchases from June.
Are there any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
Next item, approving accounts due and payable by the city through August 14th, 2020. Bill number 7528, ordinance number 9325.
First reading.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
and Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 14th, 2020.
I move that bill number 7528 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9325.
Second.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 14th, 2020.
Thank you. Next item is staff comments. We do have a number of reports in your packet, upcoming city items of note, the Northland Assistance Center report, second month report, and the YMCA monthly financial report for June of 2020. And I would just like to remind the council of a number of special meetings that we do have scheduled in the weeks ahead. Make sure they're on your calendars. One is a special meeting a week from tonight, August 25th at 6 p.m. to set the property tax rate. That is usually a very short meeting, usually in about 10 minutes or so. And then we do have budget work sessions scheduled on Wednesday, September 2nd at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, September 8th at 6 p.m. Your budgets will be ready. We will be ready to have those out before the end of the week. I'm aiming for Thursday, certainly no later than Friday, to get those to you and to have them posted online. And
Can you give those budget dates again?
Yes, sir. Wednesday, September 2nd at 6 p.m.
Okay,
and Tuesday, September 8th at 6 p.m.
okay.
Councilmember DeLong.
You mean Friday?
I'm sorry, sir.
You mean end of the work week Friday? Or are you talking?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have it. They'll be to you before the end of this week.
Okay.
This work week. Yes, sir.
All right,
Before
thank
the
you.
end of Friday.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That concludes staff comments. The next item is council member comments, and I'll begin by calling on Councilmember Saper.
I'm very glad that we are moving ahead on some of these issues that we talked about at the work session. And I want to thank Lisa Tull for taking on the workload and expanding the scope of what we're doing, because it really is social, political, and cultural. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
I'll echo that. It's good to see us working together to get some positive change moving forward. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Saper, and Lisa. Thanks for taking it by the reins, and really appreciate that. Public Works, I also want to thank. I saw some sidewalk work being done and some tree trimming around the neighborhood, really freshening things up. So thank you for that. And then I want to say two things. One is less important. It's the trash cans are still, I walk around every day, but Tuesdays is pretty tough with a stroller to get down the sidewalk. So please, if you're watching this, put your trash can where it's supposed to be, not on the sidewalk, and then ask your neighbor to do the same. That'd be much appreciated. The second thing is, and I can't say this strongly enough, put your mask on, please. When you're out in public, when you're out indoors, please wear a mask. These things work. And if we all get together on this, we're going to slow things down. We're seeing numbers rise. We're seeing deaths rise. ICU counts are rising, and it's happening here. It's not happening elsewhere. It's happening in Missouri. So please, when you go out, put on a mask. Thanks.
Councilmember Tull.
I wanted to thank the members of the community that brought up the need of a group that we were talking about, and I look forward to working on that. And then I also wanted to thank Crystal Doss, who has been amazing for someone who started and been totally online. She's really kept me connected and dotting my I's and crossing my T's. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Clevenger.
Okay, just a couple of things. As far as echoing what Jesse said about the trash bins, I know that a lot of times I'll put mine on my sidewalk, but not out in the public sidewalk. But when it comes back, they're out on the regular public sidewalk. I know some of our public works has told us that some of our lots have slopes on them, and that's why they're not in the yards when they're dumped from the trash company. On 24th Avenue today, a lot of the yards don't have slopes, and they were still out in the public sidewalk. But I mean, we're getting trash picked up really good. They're doing a good job getting it picked up, where with other trash companies we've had issues. So appreciate the good job they do there. Just maybe some more attention on the trash bins. I want to echo the comments on the committee that we're forming, whether it's the diversity inclusion committee or whatever we call it. Really excited about that. I want residents to know that irregardless of what your race is, what your color is, where you're from, if you live in North Kansas City, you've got an issue, you've got a comment, definitely bring it up to us, and maybe this committee will help with that. But certainly feel free to come to me, and I'm sure any other council member in this city would be willing to speak with you. So, and let's see. The only other thing is I know that the city was going to, reserve some money back on the CARES Act funding for, PPE and stuff like that. And I know you'd said where available. I'm assuming that, we would try to buy in bulk on items that we're going to need for in the future if it's available. Is that correct, city staff?
Yes, sir. What I was referring to is that there are still shortages of things like N95 masks that we would like to be able to obtain, but that's what I meant by when and where available.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. That's all I got tonight.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes, I know I said I'd never bring trash up again because I give up after so many years of complaining. However, I thought of some stuff after Zach, he talked to me about them unlevel yards. I looked, and there are some very steep where they cannot leave them on the grass, particularly like the 1200 block of 25th on the south side. The north side's flat. And that you can't leave a can. So we may have to think of some way to do, and a few places have a rock wall right on their side of the sidewalk, and that elevates. However, I'd seen the Smiths strolling along the other day, and every house on my block, and I sent pictures to Pat Halder last week of last week's trash. Every can but two on my block was where it's supposed to be. And when they went by and dumped it, all of them were on the sidewalk. So they can't say they're putting them back where they found them. I do know on their side, I will say there's still a lot of residents that are putting them on the sidewalk when they don't have to. The steep yards, I don't know what choice they got. It's better than the street, I guess. But when they say they put them back where they found them, it's an arrogant statement to me. It's like if their trash truck is following me down the street and I go through a red light, they think they should go through the red light also. Two wrongs don't make a right. Both things are against the ordinance. So you can't say I'm breaking the ordinance just because Jesse did. You know, we're both wrong. So they should put them back where they belong, whether they found them there or not. Okay. I'll let Zach bring up trash things for the rest of the term. Another thing is, I think I found out what Anthony's problem on emailing some of these things. You sent me, while the meeting was going or during the break, you sent me that copy, did you? I got it anyway. It went to junk mail. You might want to talk to Stephen on that. I don't know why a city account. Yours I received with your proper address, the city, but it went to junk mail, and I don't even glance at junk mail. I just delete them all normally. So that may be what happened to you. Let's see. One other thing, I think. Oh, the mask thing. The lady that manages the, and I shared this with Eric, the lady that manages the Dollar General told me the other day that a woman came in with a form, says she's exempt, and she gets it from the city. And I told Eric that, and of course he told me we didn't do it. But the very next day on MSN, I think it was, there's a website you can go to, no matter who you are, tell them what city you live in, and you can print off this exemption yourself, and nobody in authority gave it to you. So if anybody asks you that if we're giving out exemptions, Eric said, no, we're not. But if people have them in their hands, they're not real. So, and that's all I got. You know, I just started thinking today, we may go a whole year and never actually meet the new council people in person.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Go ahead, Councilmember Tull.
I'm just going to add on. I looked when he said that, and Tony, the email did go to my junk mail. And when I click it open, it's at linkcity.org. So maybe that's the problem.
Well, thank you for that. We would ask that when council members are writing to each other in an official capacity, that they use their nkc.org email address. So I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Clark.
One, just to Rich's quick point on people printing off things like that. If you want to know why we keep extending, is when people just don't want to wear masks. It's like we're going to be here forever. Maybe it might be like 2022 until everybody goes, okay. I really, really hope that there's some big proven thing where masks didn't matter. I do. I hope for that. I hope that it just like absolutely is debunked, but then everybody's healthy and happy and we can all have a really good laugh. I'm totally fine with that. And you can make the t-shirts. But until that time, please, please, this is so ridiculous. It's so great that somebody ran a site that says like, if you print this off, you are immune to all rules and laws and ordinances. Okay, but I digress. Echoing again, Tony and Lisa, thank you so much for combining your efforts. I mean, I think it just is a testament to our abilities to kind of, Tony brought it to a head, and Lisa, I love that you're taking the reins to try to put this together. Being new to the council and just kind of going like, how do I go about this? And I think it's going to be amazing. You'll do great. And I think it is needed. And I think it's something that would excite the community. And I do think you have, pretty well full support, as it comes around. So I'm excited to see that in September. And I'll end with that.
None tonight. Oh, thank you, sir. Councilmember DeLong.
I can't get my mouse to the unmute button. There we go. Okay. First of all, I want to echo what you said earlier. Crystal is fantastic. I just want to throw that out there. Crystal's always on par with everything and always making sure we're all taken care of here. So thank you, Crystal, for being awesome. Next thing, Census 2020 still going on. Not too late to respond. Perhaps you've lost your invite with the code on it. Still, you can go to 2020census.org, click respond, and then follow the instructions if you've lost your ID. We're at a 69.3 self-response rate right now. It's important. It's important for a lot of reasons: grants, representation, planning. When they talk about we drop the dot, we do the circle around. You want that certain business and they don't come down here. Well, they use a lot of census data to help determine some of this stuff. So it's definitely important that we get our census done. So if you haven't done it yet, 2020census.gov. And then now that I'm done with that PSA, sidewalk repair question. What is our do we have a program to repair sidewalks, or is it as residents see it, we report it and then they come fix it? Because it seems like there's a lot. They're generally right beside the big trees. It seems like it'd be something manageable for Public Works to kind of eyeball and fix proactively. But what is the best course of action to make sure these are getting repaired?
I'll ask Public Works Director Pat Hover to comment.
Yeah, we are proactive as we can be. We have miles of sidewalks.
Yeah,
and we do in a lot. We depend on people calling in some because we miss them. Yeah. But we do send staff out to actually walk sidewalks in areas. But just this week, we got some reports on a couple of trippers. And those, we happen to have a grinding machine that we took care of. And we continue that. And our sidewalk program is just, we fix them when we hear about them or we see them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I know my wife called a couple in previously that she was bothering me about, and she just went ahead and went straight to you guys, and then you guys came out. And yeah, she realized she wasn't getting done here apparently. So yeah, she went straight to you guys, and you guys took care of it this last week. So thank you for that. And for anyone else listening, so if you got them outside your house, call City Hall, and I think we also got a form on our website you can report them on if you're wanting something outside of your house taken care of there. One more thing. So we talked about doing a website. Have we considered looking at a mobile app, perhaps upgrading our mobile app? Because a lot of people are using their phones for stuff these days, and it seems like there's a lot of good apps and good technology out there. Have we considered doing that as well?
Yeah, I think that is part of our RFP.
Okay, it's all part of, okay.
Yes, sir. We do understand that mobile apps are more and more a part of things these days, and we do want to improve what we've got.
Perfect. And now I'll shut up. Thank you.
Mayor Stilo.
No comment.
Councilmember Stewart wanted to be recognized.
Just a correction for Anthony. After Lisa said what she did, I looked and it did come from your Link City account, not the city's. So that's what you need to do, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, thank you guys for the compliment. And number 16, consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a real estate matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute section 610.0212.
So moved.
Like it.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
All right, so after the beginning of this meeting, everybody who was going to be part of the executive session received an email from the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahota, with a link to the executive session. So I would ask you to please go to that link, and we will see you in the executive session shortly.
All right, I'm gonna go help Tom. You might have
What?
need to help John as well. All right.
Do what now?
Oh, so we have to leave out of this one.
Is anybody aware of an iPad or device called Matt Allen? I'm sorry, what was that again? I didn't hear.
Get in the do it. Okay, so yeah, they do 2 sessions, or I mean,
Perfect. Sorry about that. I forgot that from last time. Steven's over there assisting him right now. I can hear Steven in my background. So there's the mayor.
you know.
We need to change that.
I've been trying. You can right click on it, hit rename. But remember, this isn't being recorded.
Oh, then he'll just be kind of. Eric, I do believe everybody's in session. Sarah, if you can share your screen. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I've got it set up correctly. Yes, please. In the lower part, it says share screen.
One more for a quorum.
Very seepy.
This is public, guys. Although Bryant is very good.
I'm very what? I didn't catch that last part. No.
Is Eric's having trouble finding the link?
Do we at least have Crystal?
Is Crystal here?
I guess we have Kim.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tom's in the background.
Yeah.
Tom's here.
We got 2 for 1 there.
I see Matt Adams back there, or whatever his name, Matt Allen. Who else are we waiting for? Rick?
Need 6.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
If Kim, yeah, there we go.
Anybody need to
And
call roll?
Second, and then if they could just say aye.
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 Thank you.
It was Clark.
you,
Was the
everybody.
second.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.